Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this your favorite radio station and or FM translator. That's FM translator, for those of you who are wondering. Good morning and welcome to it. It is the Monday morning after a short week. And that, again, that's the best and the worst part, because then you're like, oof, now it's a full week again. What am I going to do? Good morning, and thank you for coming on board and joining with us today. Well, are you ready? Are you ready for some politics? Are you ready for a full summer of, it's going to be knock down, drag out, kind of, knuckle and fist all summer long. I got the feeling already. I already got the feeling. I know what it's going to be like. I'm looking at the lists of people and how many folks are running and what's going to be happening. And oh, baby, is it going to be a busy, busy summer. There's a lot of stuff going on here. We're going to go through today all the different candidates and the permutations of everything that we're going to have to deal with over the summer for the various offices and everything else. It's going to be an exciting time, where we're going to see basically all the candidates that are coming out. Some good, some not so good, some not so good. We're going to do it by the numbers, with the help of Suzanne Downing over at Must Read. She's got I thought it was a clever article about, all the different fun facts about the filings and everything else. It says primary numbers, fun facts about the filings of the Division of Elections. We'll go through some of that. And we'll see what because there was a lot of speculation. A lot of rumor mongering flying around about who was filing for what and who was going to be, battling it out for various seats and everything else. There was a lot of rumors and discussions, and now we know, or we think we know, because there's still the possibility that some could withdraw their name. They have some time, and we'll get into that here in just a few minutes. What that means and who we might be talking about as well on that. I have also opened up the phone lines this morning. If you want to sound off about the election season, well, heck, let's get to it. You might as well jump in and join the conversation at 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. We'd love to hear from you this morning and get your take on what you think is important for this year's race. If you're paying attention to all that and, doing all that kind of stuff, get your thoughts on what you think the direction of the legislature and the state are going and everything else. So, that's kind of the rundown for today. If you're ready, I'm ready to proceed. Let's get started. Well, June 1st, already going back in time. And June 1st was the deadline, Saturday. Everybody had to get their signatures in to make it official, and it was a busy day at the Division of Elections, as far as I could see. The camera crews were on hand, and basically they stood around all day just snapping pictures of everybody that went into the Division of Elections and filed for their candidacy. And there were a lot of folks who've done that. The 12 candidates filed for the U.S. House seat alone. 12 candidates for the seat currently held by Mary Peltola. Of course, you know about Nick Begich and you know about Nancy Dahlstrom. They are in the race, and have been verbally in the race for a long time. But there's a whole bunch of other ones as well. A total of 12 candidates have filed, as I just said. 4 of them reported living outside of Alaska on the actual now a candidate must be an inhabitant of the state. I love how they use the word inhabitant instead of resident, but they have to be an inhabitant of the state from which they were elected. But the candidates can satisfy that requirement before that if they move to Alaska before taking office. That seems really kind of arbitrary. There's no length of stay requirement or anything else. This, according to Ira Samuels over there at the ADN, she's got a full article on this, but they just, as long as you reside before you take office, not running for office, not, putting the ballot up, not having the day before election day, before you could actually literally win the seat and then decide to pack up all your stuff and move to Alaska, which just seems weird to me. That just seems like that is counter. It just seems like that's counter to what people should understand. That it's not before you run, it's not before the race, it's not before the election day. You just have to move here before you take office. So candidates for the U.S. House for Congress, include David Ambrose, a resident. You can't make this stuff up, folks. David Ambrose, a resident of Fairbanks, who in March filed a federal lawsuit against former President Trump, among others, alleging that Ambrose had been deprived of, quote, the right to not be attacked with space-time winds in accordance with the treason provisions in the Constitution. He requested to be compensated with $750 billion in gold, of other things. That complaint was promptly dismissed. He's running as a nonpartisan candidate from the Cuckoo Party. I mean, I just, okay, all right, I got it, Gerald Heikes, a Republican from Palmer, has registered to run for the House seat. He previously ran against Young in the 2020 primary, garnering about 6% of the vote, and in 2016, gathering 5% of the vote. He also ran against Mike Dunleavy in the 2018 GOP gubernatorial primary, garnering less than 1% of the vote, and against Parnell in 2014, garnering over 3% of the vote. So he's kind of a perennial candidate here, but, it's okay. Lady Donna Duchess of Anchorage ran for the Alaska's House seat in 2022, has declared her intent to run again as a nonpartisan. She received 270 votes, probably for the cool factor of her name, if nothing else. Lady Donna Duchess. I mean, that's just, but those 270 votes accounted for about, less than 0.15% of less than a percentage point in the August primary. Then you got John Howe Wayne, some reason I thought it was John Wayne Howe. But anyway, John Howe Wayne, a member of the Alaska Independence Party from Fairbanks, who was also registered to run. He had run for governor in 2022 and the U.S. House. He told the Daily News that he opposed taxation and did not believe that climate change is the result of human actions. So, okay. All right. We'll see what happened. And Matthew Salisbury, a Palmer Republican, declared his intention. Richard Grayson, who resides in Arizona, has declared he plans to run as a member of the No Labels Party. Samuel Clayson, who lives in Iowa, is running as a nonpartisan candidate. Richard Vaughn Mayers, who reported a Chicago address, also registered to run as a nonpartisan. But quite possibly my favorite candidate and by favorite, I don't mean I'm voting for them. I just mean the biggest head scratcher, including the guy who wanted $750 billion in gold. My favorite candidate so far is Eric Hafner, a Democrat who is serving a 20-year sentence for making false bomb threats to local and state government offices. He's registered to run for the U.S. House after previously running unsuccessfully for seats in Hawaii and Oregon in 2016 and 2018. He's currently, apparently, he is, the way it's written is that he is currently, I don't know, would he be representing us from jail? Does he think it's a get out of jail free card? I just inquiring minds want to know. And of course, the big three for that race, obviously Mary Peltola, who currently holds the seat, and then Nancy Dahlstrom, the current lieutenant governor, and Nick Begich III, who will be back on the program here shortly to talk about all this kind of stuff. It should be an interesting race. Now, remember, as much as we've been trying to fight back against ranked choice voting, that we are still under the ranked choice voting regime. The jungle primary still applies. There's still going to be a gazillion people, on the ballot. Not as many as there were during the special election after Don Young died? Was it 46, 48 different candidates? I mean, Santa Claus and the whole deal. There'll only be 12 on this ballot. Only 12. It'll be interesting to see who the fourth candidate becomes. And remember, Nick has come out and said that if he loses the primary to Nancy Dahlstrom, he'll drop out of the race. So we don't split the vote again. And my understanding was that Nancy had made some noise along the same line, but I have not heard that straight from her lips, so to speak. So we'll be talking with Nancy Dahlstrom, hopefully in the next week or so, because I got somebody from her campaign actually reached out, which is an interesting thing. We'll see what happens with that. But that race is going to be interesting overall to see who ends up in the top four. I mean, I'm sure it will be Peltola, Begich, and Dahlstrom, but who's going to be number 4 on that? What kind of wild card are we going to have? Is it going to be the $750 billion in gold guy? I mean, you reached a little too far, buddy. I would have just reached for $750 million. But you do you. You do you, boo. All right, we got more coming up. We're going to start talking about breaking down some of the races in the legislature for this wild and woolly election season. It is the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Back with more. And your phone calls at 319-527-3864 after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Good morning. What do we got? Oh, I'm so stuffy today. Oof. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Plenty of hate and discontent to go around this year, says Craig. Poussoir was the word you're searching for, says Bill. Terry says, let's hear it. Let's get the pain over. Oh, come on. It's not that bad. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Terry, that was exactly when I read that, I was like, what the, I mean, you just have to move here before you take office. So you could live in a total other state, take a chance, run a decent campaign, win, or maybe because there's just no good candidates, and then you only have to move here after. I mean, that's just, oh man. Wow. Nancy, are you watching and listening? Please remove your name now. Ooh, Rick. But she's got the backing of all those establishment Republicans. And by establishment Republicans, we mean names like Randy Rudrick and Kathy Giesel, folks like that. Those are the establishment Republicans. So, your attendance is low, says Harold. Folks must be out fishing and camping. Possibly. Or it could just be they felt as bad as I felt this morning getting out of bed and they decided to stay there. I can't. Because I would have stayed in bed today. I would. Oh, man. Establishment rhinos, says Bill. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm talking about. And that's what everybody points to is that, of course, everybody is, that the establishment Republicans. She says she has the backing of many mainstream Republicans, including House Speaker Mike Johnson and Alaska Governor Mike Dunleavy. But Begich is supported by many in the Alaska's Republican establishment. So, the thing is that this is going to be infighting at its worst. Because essentially, I guess we could say that she's being backed by the business as usual Republicans, the Ann Browns of the world, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas Nick Begich is shaking things up, and they don't like that. Either that, or they just have a real hard time with the Begich name. They can't figure it out that he's not a Democrat. That just because his uncle was, et cetera, they just can't figure that out. But yeah, this is going to be essentially a, what are they? Not a moratorium. This is going to be a plebiscite on whether or not we believe in the business as usual Republican machine, or if it's time to take it back to its roots. That's the thing. In other words, Nancy is perceived as malleable. Possibly. I mean, I think that's kind of, and name one thing that Nancy Dahlstrom has really, known for. She's just kind of this generic, non-offensive Republican, right? Kind of middle of the road, nice lady, kind of middle of the road, kind of, can't name a thing when she was in the legislature that she really stood out for, left or right. And, she's kind of the safe choice for lieutenant governor, that just nothing malleable. That kind of it, there you go. All right, here we go. We're getting back to it. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Let's do it. Oh, I love that sound.
public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke show.
Okay, I'll admit it. I am a little bit of a pain in the something or other. All right. Yeah, we were just talking in the break here about the House race and Nancy Dahlstrom. And the thing is, I don't dislike Nancy Dahlstrom. I don't the thing is, there's nothing really to grab onto there. There's nothing to hold on to. She's never, that I've seen in covering politics for the last 20, I've never seen her really take a stand on anything. I've never really seen, the whole time she was in the legislature, it was just kind of a nothing burger. And then she was the safe choice for lieutenant governor because she's kind of she's just a blank slate. She really doesn't have a whole lot of track record one way or the other. I, off the top of my head, without going back into basis and taking a look at the different bills she may have sponsored, I can't recall a single thing that stands out about anything that she did. Now, some people would argue that's a good thing, right? Well, then she didn't pass anything and she didn't, burden us with that, but she didn't really fight for anything either. So again, I'm sure she's a lovely person, but really nothing has happened. If you want to be lieutenant governor, you've got very few duties, right? You've got very few areas of control. One of those is the division of elections. She could have pushed to have that OMB report produced and published. She could have she could have pushed to have the voter rolls cleaned up. But it's like the safe bet. It's like the bland vanilla bet, right? I got 37 flavors here. Everything from mango passion fruit to trash can surprise or something. And what do you choose? You choose vanilla. Again, I'm sure she's a nice one. I've never met her, never spoken to her, but I'm sure she's probably a very nice woman. But I can't think of a thing that has stood out over. Love him or hate him, I can name a bunch of stuff that Zach Fields has done. Love him or hate him, I can name a bunch of stuff that David Eastman has done. Those are people on both sides of the political aisle. But I can't name a thing that Nancy is known for. I just think I think that was an interesting point as you look at the candidates. Now, I hope that what I had heard previously, and I mentioned it in the last segment, Nick Begich has said on this program multiple times that if he was defeated in the primary, the jungle primary, if Nancy Dahlstrom drew more votes than he did in the jungle primary, he would withdraw so that there was only one major Republican on the ticket because of what happened last time, because of the shouting match that he and Sarah Palin got into. And I had heard, I'm trying to remember where I heard it now, that Nancy had said something similar. I hope that's true. And we will, when we have her on the program here in the next 10 days or so, we will ask her that question directly. If she loses the primary, will she bow out to open the field to make sure that there is one major Democrat, Nancy Peltola, and one major Republican? In that case, it would be Nick Begich at that point. Would she be willing to pull out? I think that's I just think that makes sense. But this whole thing was is a microcosm of what we're going to see in some of these other races, where you've got 5 and 6 different people running for office, and a lot of times it's always one Democrat and then the rest are Republicans, this is the typical Republican problem, which at times was fine when it was the regular primary and you had 5 Republicans and 1 Democrat running for a seat, and the 5 Republicans could beat the hell out of each other in the primary, and then when the dust settled, there was 1 candidate against the Democrat. But that's not how it's working anymore. That's not how it's working anymore. Instead of beating the hell out of each other in the primary and then only 1 candidate moving on to fight the race in the end, we got 5 Republicans and 1 Democrat for a single seat. Who do you think is going to win? I mean, this is, again, working as intended. You know, the Republicans closed their primaries because that's what would happen, was that you'd get 4 or 5 people in a primary race, and then the Democrats would go in and vote for the weakest candidate because they only had 1 candidate up, right? So they didn't need to have a primary on their side of the world. And so they'd take a Republican ballot and they'd vote the most mediocre or the weakest candidate of the thing. And that's eventually why the Republicans closed their primaries. And but again, at least you would still come out in the end with just 1 single candidate. And then they'd have to duke it out. And then it would be a true, battle. But not now. No, not now. Fingers crossed that this ranked choice voting thing makes it to the ballot and gets skewered sideways. It's just insane. In Alaska, if the Alaska GOP won 50 of the 60 seats, they'd still turn the reins over to the Democrats, says Harold of the Chat room. And that's very possible. I mean, literally, the Republicans in this state are very good at circling the wagons and shooting inward. That's where it's at right now. We'll see what happens. And I'm sorry, it was not an OMB report. The elections audit was done by Kelly Shabaka when she was commissioner of the Department of Administration, not the OMB. I apologize. I didn't want to throw the wrong people under the bus. Kathy Tomes, who comments in the chat room today, said at the convention they had asked Nancy about that election report, by the way. She blamed the governor, said it was his to release. I seem to remember the governor saying that it was the lieutenant governor's thing to release, but, who knows? Who knows at this point? All right. Well, let's start taking a look at some of the other chessboard moves that were going on out there. Anchorage Republican Tom McKay formally switched up his campaign plans. Instead of running for re-election for House District 15, instead, he decided to challenge Matt Clayman, the Democratic senator who represents seat H. Already running against Clayman is Republican Liz Vasquez. So again, 2 Republicans against Matt Clayman. I mean, should there just be an all-together pledge that if we don't win the primary, we drop out? I mean, wouldn't that make sense? I mean, shouldn't we do that? At the same time, former state senator Mia Costello filed for McKay's seat in House District 15. Now, in this case, it would be 2 Democrats, Dustin Darden and Danny Wells, who would then be fighting out for that seat. Danny, I mean, I guess that would work out to our favor. Dustin Darden is a perennial candidate. He was part of the Alaska Independence Party for years before he changed his affiliation to Democrat this last go round. He's the guy that puts up a bunch of cardboard signs around town telling you with magic marker telling you to vote for him. He runs a tight campaign. I mean, it's just oof. And then, of course, there was a lot of discussion about the potential for who might run for some of the other House districts. There were two husband and wife teams that were being talked about, Jessica Wright and Stephen Wright. Jessica there was some talk about throwing her name back into the ring to run against Jesse Sumner. Although Republican Stephen Menard was also in that race already. And then, of course, James Squires and Pam Good, those are the folks who live out in Delta. They're uber conservative folks who had filed letters of intent, but had not indicated if they were going for the House seat early on or for the Senate seat. And some of that has now cleared up. In 2018, Squires had run for House District 9. Good ran for a seat in 2014 and 2018, both running to knock out George Rauscher, who managed to hold on to his seat the whole time. As of midday on Thursday, both James Squires and Pam Good and Jessica Wright, all three of them, had still only filed letters of intent. Now that has changed. They have solidified some of these races, and we're going to give you the full rundown here on just a minute on where it all ends up. But again, just a reminder that again, the jungle primaries are still in play for this year. The jungle primary is still going to be there, still going to be a huge list of names, and you're going to be seeing these names twice in 2 months. You're gonna see them, twice in 3 months for some of the races, because anyway, it's gonna be a fun time to be had by all. It's gonna be politics wall to wall for the entire summer. That's what you could expect right now. So we're going to get into the actual House seats and who's filing for what, who's running unopposed, who is going to be in the fight for their life, and who might be dropping out as well. So we're going to talk about that here in just a bit. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. The Michael Duke Show continues. Don't forget, you can always come out and check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/Michael Duke Show, or YouTube, youtube.com/Michael Duke Show. I mean, any of those things. And you could come be part of the chat room, hang out with me and harass me during the commercial breaks. We'll be back with more common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return right after this.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show, because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Wow. Gordon kind of sums it up here. Snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Republican SOP. Menard and Wright are a big no, says Terry. Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting race. That's interesting for sure. Cindy says the Republican mantra where no one is good enough and we keep losing. I mean, that for some, that is like the ultra, that is the ultra orthodoxy. If you don't follow our orthodoxy, we're going to, run you around in circles. Frank says, are we becoming the Lynx party that are not afraid to eat their own? Possibly. That could be it. Let's see. We love to poke the bear. Come on, Advil. The shoulders are slow. Come on, Advil. Yeah. Oof. All right. We love say, wait, George isn't dead? No, he's still around. Still around. I mean, again, but interesting, won't come on the program. Won't come on the program to discuss. He and I had a conversation one day and he said, look, I'm not going to come on your program. I'm like, okay, why? He's like, I just don't, he doesn't like that part of the job, apparently. He just doesn't want to be, I don't know if he's shy. He just didn't want to be put on the spot, I think was the essential thing. Didn't want to be put on the spot. It's that libertarian mantra. It's the party of evil versus the party of stupid. Donna said, I think ranked choice voting is a terrible system, but please keep reminding Alaskan conservatives to rank the red, and it won't matter how many are in the race. Well, that is true. That is true in that regard. But, dang. We need to do like the Washington Republicans, run as Democrats. Could you imagine infiltrating the Democratic Party from that end and doing that? That would be, bad. That would have been interesting. All right, Donna, we'll remember to remind everybody when we get back that is the way that we're going to go. There's a reason that Dunleavy never calls this show. Yeah, because he doesn't want to be asked the hard questions, really. I mean, he doesn't like to be put on the spot. He doesn't like to be, and again, it's not like I'm a gotcha guy. I usually just steer the conversation into an area that I want to talk about, and if it makes you uncomfortable, I'm sorry. That's just, but I'm not looking for a gotcha moment. I mean, it's difficult. Dunleavy used to come in on the show before he sold out the base, says Chris on Twitch. Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, it's like at one point he kind of sold his soul to whatever was going on out there and then doesn't want to reappear on the program. It's a problem. All right. Sorry. Is Bjorkman really red? Nope, he's a closet bipartisan. I don't think anybody really thought that Bjorkman was red to begin with. I think that was what they used to call back in the old days a flag of convenience, right? During the days the privateers and the naval shipping, that was a flag of convenience. That's what that was right there. Yeah, Dunleavy doesn't need the base anymore. What's the base going to do? Vote Democrat? Yeah, he's like, I'm done with you. You've served your purpose. Now I'll move on and start ignoring you. That's kind of where it's at right now. Which, if his whole goal is to eventually run for Senate, which is what I hear for U.S. Senate, he may not want to forget his base. But, that That could be it right there. That could be what's happening. Dunleavy's defense his base sort of abandoned him in 2019. I mean, to a point, there were definitely some ship jumping going on there, but a lot of us were still behind him. A lot of us were. We were still behind him. Okay, we gotta go. Okay, let's. Shall we dive in? Should we dive in and start to talk about some of the different primary races and some of the interesting stuff that's come out? I'm ready to do this. Let's take a look at some of the list of candidates, folks who are out there on the list as of Saturday and ready to go. All of Alaska's House seats and 10 of the 20 Senate seats are up for election in November. There was some last-minute shuffling that opened up several different races, including 1 Senate seat and 6 House seats, where incumbents are not seeking re-election. They had until 5 p.m. on Saturday to file, and then they have up until the end of the month to drop out of the races before ballots are finalized and printed. So there's some discussion as to whether or not that will happen on one or more races. There's one specifically that I'm thinking about, and we're going to get to that one here in just a bit. 8 incumbents in the legislative races are set to run unopposed. So here are those 8 seats. Senator Jesse Keels, who's the Democrat from Juneau. Donnie Olson, the Democrat from Gullivan. Rebecca Himshoot, the independent from Sitka. Sarah Hannon, the Democrat from Juneau. Zach Fields, no opponent, the Democrat from Anchorage. Dan Sadler, the Republican from Eagle River. Representative Delana Johnson, the Republican from Palmer, and Representative Kathy Tilton, the representative from Wasilla, the Speaker of the House. So, and as much as I appreciate the fact that 3 of the Republicans are facing no challengers, as I've often said, anytime you have somebody who runs unchallenged, I think that's problematic. Even if it doesn't even have to be an opponent of the opposing team. It could be a Republican. Simply to keep them sharp. Simply to keep them on task. Simply to hold them to the promises that they made during whatever the last election cycle was. And so Sadler, Johnson, and Tilton all running unopposed. So, I mean, definitely could be worse in that regard. Of course, the Juneau bubble, they were not going to replace their people because they're very happy with their people, Hannon and Keel. Rebecca Himshoot, the independent from Sitka, who's really just, should say Democrat from Sitka, but it is what it is. And Donnie Olson, I mean, it's just like, that's a dynasty, right? It's Olson and Hoffman. That's a dynasty that you're just not going to bust up. They're going to run unopposed no matter what. And then, of course, you have the folks who have bowed out of the race, who have decided not to run for re-election, including Jenny Armstrong, the Democrat from Anchorage. She was the one that was embroiled in the whole battle over her residency. You remember that. that unlike unlike the Congress seat where you can run from outside and then only have to take residence up before you take office, in the state of Alaska, you have to reside here for a period of time before you can actually run for office and go represent somebody in the legislature. You got to kind of understand the ground you're walking on, right? She eventually won that dispute, but I don't know if it just soured her on politics, if she wanted to be one and done, or what the situation is. But Jenny Armstrong has dumped out of the race. Dan Ortiz of Ketchikan, we talked about that last week. He is the independent from Ketchikan, who is kind of one of the more moderate Democrats in my mind, as I look at kind of his track record and what he's done. But he's retiring for health reasons. Representative Laddie Shaw, the Republican from Anchorage, the Girdwood area. We'll talk about that in a second. But he decided he's retired. He's 74, 75. He's retiring. Senator Click Bishop, of course, also we talked about last week, has bowed out and is hinting at a possible run for governor in 2026. So those are the incumbents not seeking re-election. And then we had a whole lot of horse trading going on. We had a whole lot of shuffling and shifting, names popping up, people jumping ship to different seats and different groups. The prominent ones, of course, are Representative Ben Carpenter, Mike Cronk of Tok, and Tom McKay. They're all vacating their House seats to run for Senate. And we'll see where that goes out right now. And then, of course, we've had some interesting races that we're going to be watching, especially when it comes to the control of the House majority, because we know that David Eastman has sat outside the majority for the last couple sessions because of his Ira Samuels in the ADN says his divisive tactics. And, you know, I don't say that she's necessarily wrong. Like I said, I agree with a lot of what David believes in, probably 85% of what he believes in. I dislike the way that he tries to get it done. Anyway, David Eastman now facing a challenger from fellow Republican Jubilee Underwood, who is a school board member and has made a public promise to work collaboratively with conservative GOP legislators as part of the coalition. And so that should be very interesting. Also, Louise Stutes, who is a Republican in the House, but has basically, she's caucused with Democrats for years, is now facing a challenger as well, a libertarian challenger from Seward, who we're probably going to have on the program here. Leighton Radner is who it is, and we'll probably have Leighton on the program here in the next few weeks to discuss his candidacy as well. He's a libertarian out of Seward running against Louise Stutes. That should be an interesting seat. One of the more contentious seats is going to be Representative Thomas Baker's seat in Kotzebue. He was appointed to the seat by Dunleavy last year after his Pat Katak was elected the mayor of the borough. Two Democrats are now challenging Baker, who switched his party affiliation from Republican to undeclared the day after the recent legislative session ended. I thought that was a telling, maybe is this turnabout's fair play? I'm not really a Republican. I'm an independent. I'm an undeclared. You could still vote for me. I mean, if it's good for the goose, well, then maybe it's good for the gander. That's going to be interesting. Moving over to the Ketchikan seat, I mentioned Dan Ortiz is stepping down due to health concerns and wanting to spend some more time with his family. Now, Jeremy Bynum announced his run earlier this year after running against Ortiz the last go-around. But once Ortiz announced that he was leaving and stepping down, Grant Echo Hawk jumped into the race. Jeremy Bynum is quoted as saying in an interview on Friday, "I have a true belief in our Republican principles. I'm going to do what's best in the best interest of District 1, and I'm hoping that involves Republicans getting around a bigger group of people to get things done." Echo Hawk, on the other hand, said he was more aligned with Ortiz's bipartisan approach. He said he was basically going to pick up the torch where Ortiz left and continue to run that down. Specifically, he was focused on the issue of the vetoes and the education funding. He said, quote, that folks are voting no, that folks are vetoing it, that folks are focusing on other priorities and initiatives. They're coming from a very specific end of the political spectrum. That's going to be a big difference. We all say that school funding is important, but at the end of the day, it's how you vote. So he's obviously trying to make hay out of the SB 140 vote, which we knew was going to happen. There was going to be a lot of people who were fighting about that SB 140 vote as well. And there was a third candidate who entered the race as an independent, Agnes Moran, who is a former borough assembly member and had previously run for the legislature as a Republican. Last minute addition. I don't know what she thinks she can add to that, but there will be no ranking in that because it's just 3 people in the seat, so it'll be good, better, best. It doesn't matter at that point, unless she decides to pull out within that 30-day window and make it a race between Bynum and Echo Hawk. So that will be and again, that's part of the problem. Some of these races don't have enough candidates for the jungle primary. Essentially, if you've got fewer than 4 candidates, there is no primary for that seat. The 4 or less names, simply move on to the regular ballot because the primary is to is to sort out the top 4. So if you have 4 or less in a race, all 4 of them are going right to the big show, which again is confusing for a lot of people when they see how that's all going down and everything else. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about the South and West Anchorage suites, and then we're going to hit this primary numbers, fun facts about the election filings. That's all coming up in hour 2. Phone lines are open, 319-527-3864. If you want to hang out and chat about it, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Back with more in hour 2, dead ahead, The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Sorry. Somebody was trying to spoof me, send me a text message saying that I had a package waiting at the post office, but my address was incomplete, and I needed to click this link to finish putting my address in there that had nothing to do with USPS. Some people fall for it. It's a crying shame. If people who did those kind of scams put half as much effort into working a real job or being an entrepreneur or something, if they put half that energy that they put into being a criminal into doing something like that, it would really, they could really do something different. So, all right. I get those messages, says Amy. I too just delete them. I deleted it, but I reported it to Google first because that helps them block and weed them out. So there you go. The Chosen season 4 is dropping today. That's on Angel Studios. I haven't watched that yet, but it looks like it'll be interesting. Finally, Stutz has competition. I mean, I hope so. I don't know how much love a libertarian is going to get in a race like that, especially since who ran against Stutz? Somebody, was it Heath Smith? Well, Heath Smith was running against Gary Stevens. Anyway, there's been some good candidates, just not enough of them. Not enough horsepower to get over that. Let's see. Yay, carpetbagger goes home, says Brian. I think that was a Jennifer Armstrong comment. Heath ran against Stevens. Yeah. Didn't somebody run against Stutz last go around? I'm trying to think. Oh, doesn't help that the cold medicine is kind of fogging the old melon here. Anyway, it would be nice to see somebody actually take a real bite out of Louise Stutz on that. Okay. No, it wasn't Wright. It wasn't Stephen Wright. It was that's gonna bug me now. All right. I'll have to go check it out on Ballotpedia later on. See what's going on. Okay. Anything else? Brian Cherry, go back and grab that chainsaw for a couple hours today. Oh, were you using a chainsaw yesterday? Is that why your shoulders are so sore? There you go. Brian. Yeah, using a chainsaw for a few hours will definitely stretch muscles that you did not even know you had. That's faux show. The faux show motion there. All right. So, number to call, 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. If you want to sound off about anything, what direction do you think the state is going to take? Are you empowered or emboldened by the lineup of legislative candidates so far? What do you think? What do you think? It's definitely an interesting thing. Now we're getting into discussion about Fort Benning. Fort Benning has now changed its name. I don't support a name change either. That's the thing. This name changing, the tearing down of statues, the everything else, you can't change history. I mean, you could try and whitewash it, but you can't change it. Why? I mean, what's the point at that? It's a virtue signaling that just drives me bananas. Absolutely bananas. All right, I could close this and close. Oh, I can't close that, but I can close this. Okay. We're gonna get ready to jump back into it here in just a minute or two. Oh, we've also got that story about the National Park Service. That story has grown a little bit. We've got a little bit more info on this, which is interesting. It's interesting. They're trying to backpedal a little bit. They're trying to backpedal a little bit on the story. It should be interesting to go over that as well. Frank says he thinks the state is going to go status quo. So you don't think anything's going to change? You think it's going to be carry on, carry on? Well, I hope you're wrong, but if I was giving Vegas odds, you're probably right. If I was giving Vegas odds, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, we got to go. Hour 2 is dead ahead. Please share wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening to. Share, like, subscribe. Here we go.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Yep, live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you can go to find the live stream and links to the social medias and everything else, and also broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning. Welcome to the program. Thanks for coming in. Hour 2 of this beautiful Monday. It's a little soggy out there. It's a little soggy. It's, that's okay. A little cloudy, a little gloomy, a little cool. Couple of nice days or parts of nice days this weekend. I hope wherever you're at, you got a little bit of that vitamin D sunshine. I appreciate that. I like at least a couple good hours of sunshine before the clouds roll in. We will continue today. We've just been talking about what's coming out of this next election cycle. It's going to be an exciting election season this summer. I could just tell you that it's going to be wall-to-wall politics. I can't wait. We got the full list and the full rundown of who's getting what seat, who's running for what, who's running unopposed, and everything else, and what some of the stronger races are going to be. Well, not stronger races, pivotal races. That's the word I was looking for. Pivotal races are going to be in those seats as well. Plus, Suzanne Downing has got a cool article up, which I just have to laugh about because it's perfect show prep. Thank you, Suzanne. Fun facts about the filings of the Division of Elections. Primary numbers. And there's all kinds of numbers in here that will make you just make you go, oof, oof. Should be some interesting things. We're going to go through this whole thing, and we'll continue to talk about it, as well as some of the rumors about people who may have filed that may drop out, may withdraw. It should be an interesting discussion this morning. Don't forget, you can come on over and join us on Facebook. Facebook.com/Michael Duke Show /live. If you just type that whole thing in, Facebook.com/Michael Duke Show /live, you'll jump right to the current video where we're simulcasting the show on Facebook. You could do the same thing on YouTube as well. Just go over there and check us out. Okay. But what else did I have? Oh, that was it. That's it for today. Oh, AlaskaRadioAuction.com. There's still some stuff up. I forgot. Till Friday. They're shutting the doors on Friday. And right now you can save an additional 20% off whatever the listed price is on restaurant certificates, hotel stays. I think there's trips. There was still some canoe rides, and I think there was some cruises and some rafting at Hope Cruises in Prince William Sound, all kinds of stuff. And you can save an additional 20% by using the code SAVE20. SAVE20. And going to AlaskaRadioAuction.com, and you can save a bundle for the summer. That was it. That was my final thing for the day. That was where it's all come down. Okay, we talked about the unopposed and departing candidates. We talked about a couple of the other races. Let's get into some of the races that may be a little bit more contentious. These are a couple of the pivotal races where they think the Democrats, because the Republican majority is super thin, they're thinking of trying to snipe out a couple of seats if they can. Again, we talked about Thomas Baker of Kotzebue, who was appointed to the seat last year by Governor Dunleavy. Two Democrats are now challenging Baker, who switched his party affiliation from Republican to undeclared the day after the session ended, which again is turnabout's fair play, man. Turnabout is, because that was it. Armstrong, Ortiz, Bryce Edgmond, the most famous one probably being Bryce Edgmond changing himself to an independent undeclared for political reasons, not because his philosophies have changed. So good for Thomas Baker. That's one of the races that we're going to be watching. The independents. I love this is Irish Samuel's verbiage. The independents. The Democrats are also eyeing seats currently held by Homer Republican Sarah Vance and by anchored Republican Craig Johnson. They're both seen as vulnerable due to their track record on education funding and the fact that they live in what they consider to be is considered to be moderate districts. So those are two races we're going to be watching very, very closely as well. We'll see where that goes. There's been a slew of candidates who have filed for the Homer seat. And we'll see. We'll see what comes out of that. But I'm kind of excited to talk to Sarah Vance about this. I really want to get her take on where this is going from her perspective. How does she feel about it? And we'll be talking with her hopefully in this next week here about that as well. We talked about the Ketchikan seat. There's of course the South and West Anchorage House seats. The Democrats had widely seen the House seat held by Tom McKay as a possible pickup, but McKay decided to jump ship. He made a run for the Senate, and he's going to go head to head with Matt Clayman now, which made room for former Republican State Senator Mia Costello to jump into the race. She's now going to be facing off against Denny Wells. And, of course, serial candidate Dustin Darden is running as a Democrat as well. So that'll be interesting. Laddie Shaw retiring has opened up a whole slew of candidates out of the Girdwood area as well. 4 candidates have now entered the race. And again, remember, with the jungle primaries, if you have 4 candidates or less, it's not really a primary. It's more of an opinion poll at that point. You'll rank them in order once they get. It doesn't matter. They're all 4 are going to appear on the general ballot. But the 4 that have decided to jump into the race that cover Laddie Shaw's seat include Republican Lucy Bauer, who is a big Republican contributor and owns several assisted living facilities in Anchorage. Republican Lee Ellis, a craft beer maker and business owner, although Lee just recently changed his affiliation to Republican. Republican Brandy Pennington, who is a real estate broker, and a nonpartisan Kai Holland, who is an entrepreneur. Both Ellis and Pennington registered as Republicans shortly before filing for office and touted their business experience as experiences business owners and operators. Pennington said, "It's not about party for me. It's about people that I'm serving." She described herself as a centrist. Ellis said, I think it's important to at least give people an idea of where you're coming from prior to running for office. Nobody has to guess at Lucy Bauer's position. She's a major GOP donor who's given more than $100,000 to various Republican candidates and causes since 2022. She said that her ownership of several assisted living facilities in Anchorage could be very pertinent in the legislature. I don't know if that means because it's an assisted living home down there or not, but it's an interesting take. That's going to be a fun seat. And of course, Mike Cronk pulling out of his House race and moving over to Click Bishop's seat to run for Click Bishop seats means that there is now a 6-candidate House run. This is going to be an interesting race. The candidates include Libertarian candidate James Fields, Democrat Brandon Kowalski, who's a graduate student from UAF, and Republican candidates Rebecca Schwenk, Pamela Good, Cole Snodgrass, and Dana Mock. So you've got 4 Republicans, a Democrat, and a Libertarian. Oh, man. That sounds like the beginning of a joke, doesn't it? Let's see. So let's start off at the top here. James Fields said he's already built contacts with the legislators and the governors. During his time on the State Board of Education, he was reconfirmed to his board seat by the legislature last year. Democrats and independents who opposed his confirmation cited his support for a resolution banning transgendered girls from competing on girls' sports teams. He said, they may have voted against me, but I know a lot of those people and we can still work together. He said he's been closely aligned with Dunleavy's agenda on education policy, considers himself a conservative libertarian. Mock of Fort Greeley is the president. Dana Mock is the president-elect of the Association of Alaska School Boards. That's probably all you needed to know at that point. He said that Cronk bought out of the race and he received a bunch of calls for somebody urging him to enter. He said the timing was fortuitous because he read a fortune cookie the day before that said you'll get more involved in politics. He's traveled to Juneau already. He's been down there advocating for an increase in the BSA. And Mock said he was disappointed by the lawmakers' inability to bring that BSA boost across the line. And so that's what he's going to be fighting for sure. You could see it already. But I mean, again, we don't know a whole lot more about Cole Snodgrass. We don't know about Rebecca Schwenk. Pamela Good is kind of a known quantity. Again, she's run for office several times. She is a conservative and kind of a no-holds-barred conservative and of the David Eastman School. In fact, she worked for David Eastman as part of his staff. And so it gives you an idea where her politics are. It'll be interesting to see who comes out of that seat in the long run. But again, no real background on Cole Snodgrass or Rebecca Schwenk. Schwanky, maybe. I don't want to mispronounce her name. Sorry, Rebecca, if you're listening. I'm sure you're not, but if you were, I apologize. Of course, SB 140 has caused a lot of people to throw their hats into the ring, including the folks who are running against Craig Johnson. Former Rep Chuck Kopp is back in the race. Not only is he in the race to help fund education, you know what he's really here about, right? He's really here about defined benefits. That's really what he's all about because he's the big union guy, right? He's here about getting defined benefits for those cops and for the first responders and then spreading it to everywhere else. That's what he's about right now. Craig Johnson picked up 2 challengers, Chuck Kopp, but also a nonpartisan candidate, Greg McGee, who said to the ADN in a text message that he decided to enter mainly because the incumbent, Craig Johnson, voted no to override the governor's veto on SB 140. And he didn't support moving SB 88 from committee. That was the defined benefits program. So we've got COP and COP Junior at this point. McGee is essentially COP Junior. So there you go. That's going to be a fun race right there. The fact that Chuck Kopp is coming back into the fold or attempting to ought to be eye-raising for a lot of you. All right, we're going to get into the numbers here in just a second. The fun facts with the primary numbers. We'll return in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Where do you think the state is going? Is it going to be more of the same? Because that's kind of the feeling in the chat room, is it's going to be more of the same. You tell me, 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864, The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Let's see. Good morning. So happy Mia is running. Is it all 4 or 3 top 2 from each party? It's a jungle primary. Everybody's on the ballot. Jungle, like law of the jungle. Like there was 46 people on Don Young's ticket, including all the Democrats and Republicans and the independents and the Green parties and the undeclareds and everybody else, the libertarians. And then whoever the top 4 vote getters were, this is Harold was asking. I mean, I thought you said ranked choice voting was easy to understand. I mean, I thought that was easy. Yeah, it's the top, it's all 4, not the top 2 from each party. It's all 4. Whoever they vote for, that's why they call it a jungle primary. Fat Ray says, out of all that list, though, how many are really Republicans? I mean, isn't it more like 3.5 Democrats, a Lolbert, and half a Republican? I mean, yeah. I guess it depends on what your definition of Republican is. All right. Frank says he still has not got his certificates from the auction. UPS said they returned to the sender. We'll call the radio station there in Fairbanks and have them resend them to you, and have them send them UPS again. I got my stuff in like that 2 days. I bought some stuff off the auction. Oh no. Debbie says, I picked up 2 naughty shot certificates and forgot to enter the code. Oh. Okay. I'm going through here. Gender issues. Let's see. Creep cop. Chuck Cop is definitely a leftist. Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. And here's something Harold and I want to retain police and first responders, higher pay and qualified folks. Defined benefits won't do it. It just bloats government liability. Yes, it does. Absolutely. Some of those people who are running are not running on reality. They're running to please a few people who pad their pockets, and to heck with the state and the future generations. I mean, that's a common problem right now, right? I mean, that's a common problem. Okay, where's my list? I've got the list here. I've got the list. Okay. All right. So now I've got the picks and the lists right here, ready to go. And the numbers. Who's the thing? Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, I got it. It's tough being on all the time when I'm got the cold medicine running in my system. So stuffy. And we got that story about the National Park Service. We'll get into that as well. We'll close that. Okay. All right. We're ready to go. Look at that. 30 seconds to spare. Got it all squared away. Please like and share. Like and follow. Do all the YouTubey things. Let's get to it. Here we go. Jumping back into it. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. There's a lot of filler there, but it's okay. We're going to get to it. It only gets worse. Terry just says, it only gets worse, Michael. Sorry. That's not what I want to hear. I want to hear how good it's going to get. Here we go. Let's get to it. Right here. Okay. To the numbers we go. Suzanne Downing over at Must Read wrote this perfect article, which is kind of like a numbers list of all the different stuff that's going on with the election. It's perfect. It's perfect show fodder. It's like perfect show prep. You can't not say no to it. So let's or not say yes to it. Let's go over here and take a look at it. The deadline, of course, is to file for the primary was the 1st of June, which was this last Saturday. And there's quite a checklist, and they made it all through. Number of candidates who filed for the August 20th primary, 120. Number of Republicans who filed, 61. Now, remember, there's only 50 seats available. 50 plus the congressional seat, but all right. 50 seats, 61 Republicans have filed. Number of Democrats who filed, 32. 18 number is the number of the no party candidates, which is undeclared, nonpartisan, but usually they caucus with Democrats. They're again, Suzanne Downing says these are undeclared and nonpartisan. Most historically use a U or an N designation to trick moderate voters into believing that they are moderates and then caucus with the Democrats. So again, just so you know, number of independent party candidates who filed, 3. Number of libertarian candidates who filed, 3. So we're, the LP, man, you guys still limited. 3. Number of unchallenged Republicans. All 3 incumbents, Dan Sadler, Delana Johnson, Kathy Tilton. We talked about that earlier. They're the 3 unchallenged. There are 5 unchallenged Democrats. Jesse Keel of Juneau, Rebecca Himshoot of Sitka, Sarah Hannon of Juneau, Donnie Olson of Gullivan, and Zach Fields of Anchorage. There are 8 total seats unopposed. So out of 50, there's only 42 that actually have people running against the current incumbent. The number of legislative races that have more than one Republican in the race. Okay. You want to guess? Because what did I just say? 42, essentially, right? Remaining, because 50 to begin with. 8 seats have got no, so 42 seats. Do you want to guess how many legislative races have more than one Republican in the race? 17. Almost half the races have more than one person, and in many cases, it's 2 and 3. I mean, it's just, they can't. Now, compare that to the number of races that have more than one Democrat in the race. 3. 17 Republican races have more than one Republican in the running for the seat. Only 3 of the Democrats are running for, and one of them is Dustin Darden, who almost really doesn't count because he's just like this perennial candidate that keeps coming back. It just almost doesn't count. But 3 races total where the Democrats are fighting it out against each other. There are 3 races that have more than 4 candidates. These are the only races that are going to be impacted by the primary. Because again, if you have 4 or fewer candidates, it's more of a poll than a primary. You'll see kind of where things are going to lay out, but they're going straight on to the general. District 36 has 6 candidates. Seat L has 5 candidates. Seat R has 5 candidates. Those are the only 3 races that have the primary, the jungle primary, is going to have any kind of impact. And then, of course, the number of Democrat and non-declared party candidates who signed the petition to recall Dunleavy in 2018, well, there's 18 of them. Janice Park, Forrest Dunbar, Jason Avery, Savannah Fletcher from Fairbanks, Rebecca Himshoot, Sarah Hannon, Kai Holland, Walter Featherly, Calvin Schreggy, Andy Josephson, Elise Galvin, Chris Groh, Genevieve Mina, Ted Eischeid, Maxine Dibbert, CJ McCormick, Victoria Sosa, and Robin Burke. They're all running, and they all voted to recall the governor or signed the petition to recall the governor, which is their right, totally. But it just kind of gives you an idea of where they stand. So let me give you the rundown by district of who's running for what. We've done some commentary, and I do have a couple other pieces of commentary to kind of jump into on this as we go through. Here it is right here. We'll continue to pile through this and give you the full rundown of who is going to be running for what by district and by chamber. So we'll start off with the Senate. Senate District B, Jesse Keel, running unchallenged. He's going to be running unopposed. Senate District D, down on the peninsula. Well, that was Jesse Bjorkman as the incumbent, and we know that Ben Carpenter is running against him. Also, Andy Cizik, who is an Alaska Independence Party member, and Tina Wegener, who is a Democrat. Then our good friend Harold Borbridge is a Republican, has now filed for seat F. That seat held by James Kaufman. In 2020, Borbridge ran against Revac for what was a special election for then Senate seat M. And that was, of course, before the political boundaries were changed, and now he faces Kaufman as well. So Harold Borbridge is a Republican running against James Kaufman, the incumbent Republican, and Janice Park, the Democrat, for Senate District F. In Senate District H, we have Republican Tom McKay running against the incumbent Democrat Matt Clayman, and of course, former Rep Liz Vasquez is also in that race. I mean, you think they talked at all before they decided to jump back and forth? I mean, because if somebody doesn't drop out before the end of this month, you got 2-on-1. How do you think that's going to work? I mean, I really want to know how, in this case, and I haven't spoken to Tom, nor have I spoken to Liz about this, but how do you think this is going to work? Liz Vasquez was already running against Clayman. Now, Liz may have some problems because of her last run, as to whether or not people think she can pull it out. But if you've got a 3-way race with no primary, which is essentially what's going to happen here, because all 3 of them are just right on through. Do you use the primary as kind of a bellwether to see how you're polling? Do you use the primary to see where you're at and then decide to, because the problem is you can't back out then. Your name will remain on the ballot. You have to get off the ballot before the end of this month. So when you've got 1 Democrat and 2 Republicans, or in the case of some races, 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat, how do you think that that's going to, in a plurality vote, how do you think that's going to work? I just, why do you do this? Anyway, so Matt Clayman, Tom McKay, Liz Vasquez. Senator Forrest Dunbar in Senate District J has a challenger, no party, Charonda Smith. I've got nothing on Charonda. I don't know anything about it, but we'll figure it out. Senate District L, that's the Eagle River District, with Senator Kelly Merrick, who not one of our favorite people here on the program, but a lot of interesting names. Ken McCarty is in the race, along with our good friend Sharon Jackson, former state rep Sharon Jackson, then Jared Goker, who's also a Republican, and then finally Lee Hammermeister, who is the single Democrat in this 5-way race. So 4 on 1, 4 on 4 on 4, 4 against each other, and then 1 Democrat on top of it. State Senate District N, we've got David Wilson, the incumbent, who again has not been a favorite of many people. As there have been calls for and discussions on how do they oust him in Republican circles. I've heard the rumors. I've heard the rumblings. It's not like this is rocket. This is a big secret. And Rob Yunt is running against him, along with Stephen Wright. I understand that some people had reached out to Stephen to see if he would, because Stephen has kind of been a perennial candidate in some of these races. And somebody had reached out and asked him if he would be willing to step aside for it to be a 1-on-1 versus Wilson and Yunt. And apparently the answer was no. No. District P, Leslie Hydukovich, the Republican, is challenging Scott Kawasaki, the incumbent Democrat. We talked to Leslie on the program here, and she would definitely be a move in the right direction. Is she as strong a Republican or as strong a conservative as I would like? No. But you run what you brung, right? I mean, she's coming to the party, and she's better than Scott Kawasaki. I say that's a step in the right direction. Absolutely. Then you got Senate District R, which became super crowded all of a sudden after Click Bishop decided to step out. You've got Mike Cronk, who's running, and James Squires, who's running, 2 Republicans. Robert Burt Williams, who is the Alaska Independence Party. Jason Avery, who's a Democrat. And then Savannah Fletcher, who is a Democrat, but is running as if she has no party. That's what she's trying to say it. She's got no party. We'll see. I don't know. Savannah Fletcher, if you've watched anything that's gone on with the Fairbanks North Star Borough Assembly, you know Savannah Fletcher. No party. That's, again, code for progressive. And then finally, Senate District T, Donnie Olson, who's the incumbent Democrat. So there you go. Those are the seats that are up for re-election in the Senate side. We'll get to the House side here in just a moment. As we finish things up for today's show, these are all the official candidates, and they all have 1 month, rather, to pull back, to pull out, which might happen. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes on Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Okay. The Dems, unfortunately, the Dems have figured out if they put an R by their name, it will give them a better chance of winning. People need to vet every candidate in their district. Yeah. I'm a registered nonpartisan. I'm a philosophical libertarian. I can't ethically be a party member because none of them follow their platform. For example, the Libertarian Party just nominated a far-left socialist Antifa supporter, leaving me writing none of the above for president this year. I'm in agreement with you that I am a registered nonpartisan and a philosophical libertarian. That's what I am. I'm a small, I like to say a small L libertarian, not the big L party libertarian, but a small L. But Layla, she uses her words better than I did this morning. Registered nonpartisan and philosophical libertarian. And yeah, I can't join any of the parties because the parties are all whack. Every one of them. It's just. Joel says he thinks that Vasquez will drop out. That'll be interesting to see if that does happen. Let's see. In the ranked choice voting system with 2 Republicans and 1 Dem, who has the advantage? Well, it's interesting because it depends on the district and it depends on it depends on the political makeup of the district. If it's a blue district or a purple district, I would say that the potential infighting between the Republicans has a chance to give the Democrat the advantage if it's a purple district. If it's a red district, they may just, if you rank the red, then the blue candidate would be at the bottom anyway. But if it's a purple district, more of a moderate centrist district, the chainsaw match between the 2 Republicans could end up damaging them both. And that's part of the problem there. Okay. She's gone to the lower 48 and likely to win a spot in the general because people don't know that. I don't know what you're responding to here, Leela. I don't know what you're talking about there. Who went to the lower 48? I don't know. Kelly is backed by the unions, which makes it very hard to beat her, says Ron. Yeah, she's got the deep pockets. Wilson would support a no-binding caucus majority. Can't blame him for supporting its constituents. Savannah is a hard no. Layla's gotten really talkative here. Big Sigh, any Hajdukovic running against Scott when you know all of them and you know their warts, holding my nose for Leslie and Savannah Fletcher, rude, inconsiderate, far left. At least she'd be making room for an assembly, possibly somebody who wants to hear from the public. Lots of big egos running there. Yeah, no. Joel says, I spoke with Liz. She said, if I don't have the financial support, I will drop out. Well, then I know who's getting my money in that scenario. In the purple scenario, it favors the Dems every time. The Dems will vote for the Rhino and get their incremental gain. Well, there you go. That's true as well. I wasn't thinking of it in that regard, but Pat Ray put his finger on that one right there. Okay. I think that's it. I'm just going backwards here to see if there's anything that I missed. Ron says his hope for this election cycle, a presidential year, is that unlike 2 years ago, the conservatives actually get out in large numbers and vote. I would hope so. I mean, I would hope that people are motivated to get up and move the needle with everything that's going on. I mean, if nothing, at least in outrage. I mean, again, I'm not a fan of Trump, but what's happened to him is just, it's a political, it's a travesty. And it's political machinations and lawfare. It's crazy. Again, not a fan, but also don't like to see the government weaponized against somebody. And that's the real problem here. And I think people are going to be uptight. Well, I mean, look at what happened when the announcement was made. He made what, $40 million that first night? Yeah. All right, here we go. Jumping back into it. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Let's get to the final house numbers.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Huh. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay, final segment here as we continue to go through all the new names and who's duking it out with who in the upcoming election cycle. It's gonna be an interesting race for sure. Let's continue on here with the House seats. We made it all the way through the Senate seats. Now I'm going to move on to the House. So, House District 1 in Ketchikan. Of course, that was Daniel Ortiz. He dropped out, but has until June 29th, to formally withdraw. So he's still on the ballot as of now, but he has said that he is going to retire and withdraw. That leaves Jeremy Bynum, the Republican, and Grant Echo Hawk, who has no party affiliation as well. Suzanne Downing says that Agnes Moran is a no party. The ADN was reporting she's a Republican. So I don't know if she changed her affiliation or somebody's got it wrong, but basically it's Jeremy Bynum against two others. House District 2, Sitka, Rebecca Himshoot has got no opponent. House District 3, North Juneau, it's Andy Story, the incumbent Democrat, versus former Rep. Bill Thomas, a Republican. Love to see something happen there. That would be interesting. District 4, downtown Juneau, Sarah Hannon has no challenger. District 5, Kodiak and Seward, that's Louise Stutz, who has needed a challenger for a long time. And now we have Leighton Radner, who is the Libertarian candidate. Leighton and I have already been talking. We're going to have him on the program here, hopefully this week or next week, to talk about his candidacy and see what the chances are of taking a bite out of Louise Stutz. She's got a lot of support in Kodiak, a lot of support. So they must like what she's doing there. She must like what she's doing. House District 6 is, of course, Sarah Vance's seat. And you've got Sarah Vance, of course, and then Brett Johnson, who is the no party is what he's saying, but he is the chair of the KPB, the Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly. Elena Greer, no party. Dawson Slaughter, a Republican. But all three have cited the vote on the educational bill as one of the reasons why they are upset with Sarah and want to see her out. So again, all four of these names are going straight through the primary onto the general, because there's only four names here. It's always the top four. Justin Ruffridge in House District 7, Soldotna, is facing the former representative, held that seat, Ron Gillum, the Republican. So two Republicans duking it out. One is more conservative than the other. I think that's pretty obvious. I'd reached out to Justin last week to get his thoughts on the election. Have not heard back yet. We'll find out more later. House District 8, the North Kenai. This is, of course, Ben Carpenter's current seat. And we have John Hillier, who is a Republican candidate, and Bill Elam, also a Republican. So two Republicans for that seat. John Hillier was the kind of the handpicked choice, I think, to run that. And we'll be talking with him here later on as well. We've already heard from him. So we're working the schedule together right now. House District 9, South Anchorage, that is the seat that Laddie Shaw held, and now you've got Lucy Bauer, Lee Ellis, and Brandy Pennington, all Republicans, fighting it out with Kai Holland, who is a no party. And again, anytime you hear no party at this point, it's almost like you could just, it's a Democrat. So it's just, you can't, it's just, I hate to have to say it, but that's just like every time it's undeclared. And of course, as I said earlier, Pennington and Ellis only registered as Republicans just prior to filing. Lucy Bauer has been a contributor for big time. House District 10, it's Craig Johnson, the incumbent, versus former Rep Chuck Kopp versus Greg McGee, no party. House District 11, Julie Colomb, the Republican, versus Walter Featherly, no party. I've interviewed Featherly before. He's an interesting cat, but I thought he was interested more in Bush politics than local. We'll have to find out more about that. In House District 12, Calvin Schregi, the incumbent Democrat, is facing off against Joseph Lertzema, who is a Republican. I know nothing about Joseph. We'll see if we can get some info on that. Andy Josephson in House District 13, the Democrat, is facing off against Heather Gottschall, the Republican. House District 14, the incumbent Representative Elise Galvin, who says is no party, is facing off against Harry Winter Camden, the Democrat. So that's a little dem-on-dem violence there going on, right? And that, excuse me. Wow, that snuck up on me. Then in House District 15, Mia Costello is now running for that seat against Denny Wells, the Democrat, and Dustin Darden, the perennial candidate. House District 16 in Anchorage, it is Carolyn Hall, the Democrat, running against Nick Moe for no party. That is the Jenny Armstrong seat. Zach Fields is running unopposed in 17. Cliff Grow in 18, facing off against David Nelson, the Republican. Now, he beat Nelson before, but this is a whole new go-round. We'll see how he does. This is a little bit tougher because this district is turned a lot bluer than it was, more purple. Now it's a lot bluer than it was. Remember, David Nelson won that seat from Gabrielle Ledoux back in the day. Kaylee Anderson in 19 is facing off against Genevieve Mina, Anderson, the Republican, and then Russell O. Wyatt, is the no party candidate. Andrew Gray in District 20 is facing off again against Scott Kohlhaas, the Libertarian. I wish we could get more candidates against Andrew Gray. House District 21, Donna Mears, the incumbent Democrat, is facing Amy Sins, the Republican. House District 22 is Stanley Wright, the incumbent Republican, facing off against Ted Eichscheid. House District 23, Jamie Allard, the Republican incumbent, facing off against Jim Arlington, the Democrat. House District 24 and 25, that's Sadler and Johnson, respectively, both running unopposed. Kathy Tilton in 27 running unopposed. House District 26 run opposed. House District 27 is Eastman. He's the incumbent, and he's facing off against Jubilee Underwood, the Republican, who is the school board member and has promised to work with the majority instead of at odds with the majority, which has been a lot of the criticism that Eastman has received over the last few years here. House District 28, Wasilla, that is Jesse Sumner's seat. Stephen Menard is a Republican, along with Alexi Moore and Jessica Wright. Now, Jessica is the wife of Stephen. We've had her on the program before. In my opinion, she's not a serious candidate. She barely speaks English. She did not have answers for a lot of the questions. The Wrights are nice people. Stephen and Jessica Wright are nice people. But in my mind, neither one of them are serious candidates. Now, the word on the street was that Stephen Menard, who ran against Sumner last go-around, had actually been recruited to fill in Sumner's seat by Sumner himself. Some politicos believe Sumner will pull his name out at the last minute and that he recruited Menard as his successor. He has served in the legislature since January of 2023 and has complained the entire time that being away from his construction business has cost him a lot of money. And you could see that. So he has until the 29th of June to withdraw. And this is one of the withdrawals that I will be keeping an eye out and looking for. Ortiz and Sumner. I have a feeling that Sumner will pull out of this race. But Alexi Moore, Stephen Menard, Jessica Wright, all Republicans. Again, only 4 people. They're all going through to the main event. George Rauscher is facing a Bruce Wall of no party for Area 29. Doyle Holmes, a Republican, is facing off against Kevin McCabe, an incumbent Republican. I don't think that, did Doyle just recently change over? Because that's... House District 31 in Fairbanks, Maxine Dibert is a Democrat facing off against Bart LeBon, the Republican. Will Stapp in House District 32, the Republican, facing off against Gary Damron, the Democrat. Mike Prax in House District 33 is facing off against Michael Welsh, who is a Republican and former mayor of North Pole. Look at that. I'm out of time. I just looked up. I didn't even get to the good stuff. I guess tomorrow's another day. We'll continue. Have a good day. Okay. Well, I suppose we'll finish up real quick here. What's the interesting ones? House District 34, Joy Beth Cottle, who's a Republican facing off against Frank Tomaszewski. I don't know why she felt the need to, why feel the need to face off against Frank? Is there something you didn't like there? Interesting to find out. And then House District 36, this is the seat that was held by Mike Cronk. This is one of those big races. This is that 6-way race with James Field, the Libertarian, Pam Good, the Republican, Brandon Kowalski, the Democrat, Dana Mock, the Republican, Rebecca Schwanke, the Republican, and Cole Snodgrass, the Republican. How is this going to work out? I don't know at this point. District 37, Bryce Edgman facing off against Darren Deacon, both of them with no party. And then in House District 38, our good friend Willie Keppel from the Veterans Party of Alaska facing off against C.J. McCormick, along with Democrats Victoria Sosa and Nellie Jimmy. And then finally, House District 39, Neil Foster, apparently Tyler Ivanov, who only lost by about 90 votes last go around, has been working his butt off to try and recapture those 90 votes, and he may give Neil Foster a run for his money. And finally, again, House District 40, Uktavic, Thomas Baker, incumbent, no party, because he changed his party affiliation, is now facing off against Robin Burke and Sema Chase. And I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the native names in the middle because they put the native nicknames in quotes. I'm not going to attempt to butcher those, but that's it. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of things. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. I can't wait. This whole summer is going to be subsumed. Ben Vincent was Stute's last challenger. Thank you, Frank. All right. Is Brad on tomorrow? Yes, Brad is on tomorrow. We will continue then. Be kind. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the comments here. Be kind, love one another, live well. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Brad and Chris Story tomorrow. We'll see you then.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.